Okay, here are some questions that will help you to study for your Chapter 2 test. The first thing you need to be able to know how to do is to calculate the mean, the median, and the mode. The mean is calculated by adding up all the numbers in a data set and dividing by how many there are. The median is calculated by putting all the numbers in order from least to greatest and then finding the middle number. And then the mode is found by looking to see which number you see the most often. The next thing that you need to be able to do is to construct a line plot. Here we have our data values that we'll be using, and we simply draw a line and list all of the numbers on the line, and then above each number we put an X for the number of times we see that value. So you can see we have one X above the 4 because there's only one 4. All the other values have two X's. Number 3, you need to be able to construct a frequency table. You can see that a frequency table has 3 columns, and the first column is the data values themselves. The second column is the tallies, or the number of times that you see those, and then the third column is the frequency, which is simply the number that expresses the amount of times you see that value. And we've used the same data as we did for our line plot in number 2. Number 4, you need to know the parts of a stem and leaf plot and be able to construct one. And you need to especially understand what each value is, how each value is represented on a stem and leaf plot. Here's 5 values that we have, and for this stem and leaf plot we will use the tens place to be our stem, and we'll use the ones place to be our leaves. The very important part of a stem and leaf plot is knowing that the key, telling the key and using it to show what each thing represents. So you put the 3 representing the stems, then you would put a vertical line in between that, and then you would show what the leaves would look like. So if I had 3 on this side and a 4 on this side, that would stand for 34. That's explaining to anyone who reads this what value they're actually seeing. So I could represent any value. I could do numbers with hundreds or thousands or even decimals, as long as I show a key telling what each thing represents. Number 5, you need to know how to find the quartiles for a set of data and use them to construct a box and whisker plot. So here we have our data values, and we've put them in order here, which is the first thing you need to do to find the quartiles. You need to find the median, the middle number. In this case it's 5. That will be quartile 2. Then you take the first half of the data that it's been split into, and you find the middle number for that. Well, there's 2 middle numbers for this half of the data, so I have to add them together and divide by 2. This gives me 3.5 for quartile 1. Then I look at the second half of the data. The second half of the data, I have 2 middle numbers, which is both 6, so that I know right away the middle number will be a 6. That's quartile 3. Now to construct my box and whisker plot, I take my quartile values and use those to help me. The first left end of the box and whisker plot is going to be the lowest value. That's a 2. So I put my line. The whisker, you can see, is just a straight line going to the first end of the box. The first left end of the box will be the quartile 1 value, in this case 3.5. The middle line in the box is going to be quartile 2, which is 5, and then the right end of the box is quartile 3, which is a 6. And then comes my whisker on the right hand side, which is my highest value of the data set, a 7. You need to know how to read a bar graph, and bar graphs are typically drawn something like this, where I would have maybe some months of the year, and then I would have bars representing numerical values for each month. The height of the bar determines what the numerical value is. In this case, each line represents 10. Number 7, you need to know what a line graph looks like and be able to explain what a trend is and how it can be used. So here's an example of a line graph here. We've got our months and we've got the numerical values going up on the vertical axis. I've drawn the dots for the values for each month. After the values are determined, then you simply connect each value point with a line to the next one. That's why it is called a line graph. The trend part that you need to understand is looking at how the graph is going and the direction in which it's headed. In this case, my trend is increasing, and I've drawn maybe a prediction on the dotted line here of what it might be for the rest of my graph to predict what values I might see in February and March. And these can be very useful for things like purchasing supplies if you're a store owner, or various other things for looking at expenses to make sure that you have a good idea of what's going to be coming in the months ahead, even though they haven't happened yet. That's what a trend is. Extrapolation is another term that is used. Extrapolation means to use the trend to determine and make those predictions. And then the final thing you need to be able to do in the chapter 2 that you've learned is to be able to compare the values that you've computed for the data set, for the mean, the median, the mode, the range, which means you're going to subtract the lowest value from the highest value to find the range. And then we've already looked at how to calculate the quartiles. And you need to be able to compare these different values for that set of data to tell which one is more than another. Well, that concludes our review. And if you study these, you should be able to know how to do them, and you will have no surprises on the test.